Hey everybody, welcome back to Absolutely Marvel in DC. I'm Dylan, and that is Dan, and today we got some sad news. Two shows, one of which maybe you were watching, the other of which probably weren't, but I don't know. Legends of Tomorrow and Batwoman have both been canceled. Batwoman will not be getting a 4th season, and Legends will not be getting an 8th season. For a little bit of context, I am fully caught up on Legends of Tomorrow. I caught up on it last week, because I was like, hey, the 8th season is probably coming out soon. I should probably get caught up. And I watched half a season of Batwoman. Dan, what's your relationship with these shows?
I have watched almost all of Legends. The one that I ended was when they were in the Wild West, and it literally just ends with another spaceship showing up and blowing up the whatchamacallit.
Yeah, that was end of season 6.
The wave rider.
That was when we were still reviewing it on the channel. Which, like, if you want to know, like the writing was on the wall, unfortunately. Like, the reason we stopped reviewing that show on this channel was because the videos were underperforming. Nobody was watching them. So if people aren't watching our reviews, probably safe to say that people aren't watching the show. Yeah, and also, and then Dan stops watching it, which is fair. I also stopped watching it for a while. But I slowly got caught up, and like season 7 was like a mixed bag. It was. They dealt with a lot of interesting ideas. Like, I know you guys. I don't know if you saw this edit that I made in the Flash, because apparently the Flash started dealing with fixed points, and you guys were complaining that that's stupid because of time travel. Fixed points was a thing that Legends introduced in season 7.
I remember that happening.
So.
I remember it being slightly mentioned earlier in.
It's a whole thing in season 7 where Eobard Thawne shows up. Like, apparently, since his like punishment was that he now protects the fixed point of what's his nuts getting killed and starting World War I. Like, that has to happen. And if anybody tries to, there's like a whole thing where time travelers show up to try to stop World War I for various reasons, and Eobard Thawne always kills them before they can do it.
I mean, you know what? I guess to protect something bad happening, you do get Eobard Thawne. That does track.
It's true.
But then my experience with Batwoman is I have watched the entirety of season 1 because we were reviewing it at the time. So yeah, I have seen all of the Ruby Rose season. I have not seen any of the I don't know the actress's name seasons.
Yeah, no, the show that Batwoman has been for 2 seasons, neither of us have seen any of. Yeah, I watched half of Batwoman, made a video about how awful that show is, and then never looked back. And, like, I don't know, it got 3 seasons, so whatever, but also The Flash has been awful for, like, 3 seasons, so the CW clearly doesn't really care that much. But, I don't know, Legends is sad to me. We're probably going to talk a lot more about Legends here, because that's the show that I think we care about more.
It's the one that is a little bit more surprising it's being canceled, whereas Batwoman were kind of like, it should have been canceled a season ago, probably.
Yeah, I think Batwoman probably should have been canceled when its lead actress left because she didn't want to do it anymore. Maybe that's your out. But Legends is like Legends is the little show that could. Like, it started as a pretty bad tie-in to the Arrowverse.
Oh yeah, I wanted to mention that. I have only seen seasons 3 and beyond because season 1 is not Legends. Like, it is not what Legends became, and I started it, and I'm like, no, I am not watching this because they are trying to make it serious. And what makes Legends great is the not serious, Gary gets his nipple bitten off by a unicorn in a portal. Like, that's what we watch Legends for.
Yeah, there's 3 different shows in Legends of Tomorrow's 7 seasons. And the first season's show is it's another Arrowverse show. Like, it's continuity dripped. They're fighting Vandal Savage. They make jokes occasionally, but really it's just another, superhero show. And it took them a while to figure out that, hey, this isn't what anyone cares about and it's not working. So let's play to our strengths and start, changing things. And by the end of it, it's reflected in the cast. Like, the cast of season 1, there is one person left. by the finale of the show now, and that's Sarah, who's the main character. That's it. That's the only person who's left. And I think like that's, you know, the show definitely changes a lot. It is similar to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the respect that like I feel like the show got better as it deviated more from the thing it spun off from.
Right.
And a lot of people like a lot of people jumped off the show because of that. And I think that's probably similar to Legends, where Legends by the end of it was a completely like devoid of really any DC continuity or like tie-in. But at the same time, it was the only Arrowverse show that was still trying to maintain the fact that they are in a shared universe. It was very strange.
The best parts in Legends was when they started to recognize that they shouldn't be a part of the crossovers, and they right. They would mention it, and they'd be like, "Oh, we missed a call from Barry. Oh, I must have been another one of those crossover events." Like I loved how aware they were of that kind of stuff, and I thought it fit the show so well.
Yeah, that's why this show was like so fun. Is like, and it's divisive, right? Because it's a comedy show set in a superhero world, and it's a very specific brand of like satire and self-awareness that you don't really see in the CW stuff. And I think that's why it probably got canceled and why it didn't work for a lot of people, was just because it's not the kind of show that people expected from that network. Like, you watch The Flash, where it is goofy, but it doesn't realize it. And then you go over to watch Legends, it's the complete opposite, where it's like, oh, this is funny because the writers know that they're writing schlock, and the Flash writers don't. So it's...
Yeah, that was one of the things I was going to say, because I think a big reason that at least Legends is getting canceled is the fact that it's a niche of a niche audience. Like, you got to get the CW fans, but then you got to get the CW fans that like the humor, because a big problem that I think Legends also has in that regard is season 1. Mm-hmm. People, when they hear, oh, Legends is a good show, I'm going to go into it. Exactly. They go into season 1. And honestly, if I started at season 1, I would have bailed. I did not like it. I started at like season 4 and then did season 3 and then did season 2, because, you know, that's logical. And I loved it because of that. And I think the first season really turned a lot of people off, because it was like, if this is going to be the same CW formula, I'm going to go watch the ones with heroes I know and love. Like Flash, even when it's bad, people know the Flash. People know who that still is. Whereas, exactly. And like the Legends of Tomorrow has such an outcast group of nobodies, really. Like, that's the whole point they get picked.
Nobody suits up, one like at
remembers them. Exactly. Like, no one suits up. But I think, like, so you had to get that niche audience. But I think another thing that really harmed it was, I'm sure it cost a lot to make, because they did have to do more futuristic stuff. They do occasionally have to show the powers, such as like Nate going full steel. Like they had Ray Palmer's suit for a while, and I feel like it became they did not make enough profit and did not have enough audience for them to keep it going. And I think the getting of, I haven't seen it, but I think the getting of, I think it's not Zach Braff. It was
Donald
Faison as Booster Gold. I think that was a kind of last ditch effort of, hey, people kind of know who sorry, got a cat walk in front of the camera. People know that actor. More people know that character, and I think that was kind of the last ditch effort of, can we get this audience to watch the show?
That was like a long time coming too. Because it's also, they do, well, first of all, they did it in the finale. Yes. He shows up in now the series finale of the show, and I'm going to talk about like where this show leaves off and will now probably forever leave off, which is a damn shame. But yeah, you make a really good point about like it not having any recognizable characters. I've been reading a lot of tweets from people being like, well, no wonder the show got canceled. It doesn't have anyone in it that I care about, blah, blah, blah. But it really is like, it's such a shame that it even had anything to do with DC to begin with. Because if this show was like The Boys, where it like comes out and it's just a parody of all of this stuff, and it's its own thing that has nothing to do with anything, and it started like season 3, season 4-ish quality and writing.
Right.
I feel like the show probably would still be going. But
definitely.
It's strapped down
that
by
level of disconnect would have really helped it.
And I think that's the weird thing too, is like you mentioned, like powers, people using powers. Like pretty much nobody uses their powers at most of the time in this show. Like especially in season 7, I watched the last like 3 episodes of season 7, like a lot further away from the first few episodes, just because I stopped watching it for a while. But at least in those 3 episodes, like Zari uses her powers maybe twice, which is that's just wire gags.
Gust of wind usually.
Yeah, and like a easy visual effect that a 12-year-old could do in After Effects. And Nate steals up once, and it's for his like ultimate like character moment at the end. But for the most part, like they don't use their powers anymore, and I think that's because like they realized at a certain point that people didn't really care. Like this wasn't the show for that. And also they didn't have the money to do that. Like even in season 1, pretty much like people suit up at the beginning and use their powers at the beginning and the end. And the rest of it is just like excuses as to why people can't use their powers. And that's so frustrating to watch that eventually they just did away with that. And we're like, who cares? These superheroes aren't really superheroes anymore. They're legends.
Nice.
But
nice.
Do you want to know how this show ends tragically?
Let's hear it. You know what? Let's hear it, because I'm probably not going to watch it unless it does like get a revival somehow. And they're like, hey, we're going to bring it back.
That's what's such a shame too about this show is like Game of Thrones gets a horrible ending. Now nobody who didn't watch Game of Thrones wants to watch Game of Thrones because I'm speaking from experience. I haven't seen Game of Thrones, and now I don't really want to because everyone hates the ending so much. And now it's like this show gets canceled on a huge cliffhanger, which I'll talk about. And it's like, well, what's the point? And it's like, you should still watch it anyway. Maybe just pretend that it didn't get canceled and you're just still waiting. But hey, Young Justice took 10 years to get another season.
I mean, yeah, so, you're not wrong. And then we had Futurama, who got canceled once, got brought back again, got canceled again, got brought back again, got canceled again, and is coming back one more time. So
Community,
I mean, anything
Brooklyn
is possible.
Nine-Nine, Tale as Old as Time. It could come back. Probably won't. But so how the show ends. The final episode, which is so strange because it's kind of written like a series finale, with the exception of a few scenes, and it's all because Booster Gold shows up. They go to a fixed point. And every time there's a fixed point, there's a fixer there to kill anyone who tries to mess with the fixed point. At this specific fixed point, Booster Gold is the fixer. They find this out about halfway through. And it's so great because it's like perfect Booster Gold. He was put there by some people who we don't know. And he realizes, after the Legends explaining it to him, that he's been there for a while. And you realize through like Booster Gold's dialogue, but that the Legends are kind of the first people who have showed up at this fixed point, like ever. and Booster Gold realizes it's like, wait a minute, they put me here as a joke. Nobody comes to this fixed point because it's a paradox. Like if somebody breaks it, it doesn't matter. Like is what they figure out. So it's not even really a fixed point. It's like, that's so perfect, great. Booster Gold. And Donald Faison nails it.
Okay, give him the stupid job. Make him shut up over about it. Oh, that's
He's
funny.
Perfect. And also, that's what I was going to say, too, is like it was kind of a long time coming, and it makes sense as a bridge into Season 8, because the Wave Rider in the comics is a character who is often linked to Booster Gold. So it's like, took 8 seasons for Booster Gold to show up. It's like we have Rip Hunter in the first season and the Wave Rider. The third one is usually Booster Gold in that equation. You didn't get him for a while. But anyway, the show ends with Booster steals their ship because of course he does.
Of course.
And then the show ends with him coming back. The ship comes back to rescue them. And he gets on the ship, and Booster's like, "Hey, guys, I'm really sorry." And he walks out behind a console, and he's in handcuffs. and they're like, "Oh, yeah, by the way, you're also about to be in handcuffs." And then these, like, people show up out of the, like, the Wave Riders, like, hallways and shit. And they put all the legends on the ground. And they're like, "You're all under arrest, blah, blah, blah." And then it cuts. And that's how the show ends.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That sounds like some writers knew that there might be a potential continuation and there might be a potential complete end.
They had, well, that's the thing is, like, from what I've seen from the writers, they had no idea that they didn't know that they were getting a season 8, but they also didn't know that they were getting the axe, because it's like they weren't writing it as a series finale. But, like, if you chop the last, like, 20 minutes out of the show, maybe last like 5 to 10 minutes out of the show, and you remove Booster Gold from it entirely, there's like a whole sequence in the episode before it, and I think in this one also, where Gideon, an evil version of Gideon, it's a whole thing, she shows them their futures. If they stop being legends, go back to Earth to their timeline, and live out the rest of their lives, this is what they would accomplish. And it shows like Sarah and Ava have a daughter together, and like Zari becomes like this great influencer and like changes the world or whatever, and like
so basically what her future already was
would have been anyway.
Yeah.
And she gets upset. Like, some of the characters are upset at their futures. She's one of them that's like, I go back to being an influencer. I was like a superhero for a while. This sucks. And then like Astra goes on to be the president or something, or she like is trying to be. She ran hell. She wants to run real world hell now, America. But nice. Yeah, so anyway, like that's like a thing you do in a series finale. It's like, where are these characters going? But then they're like, oh, and also now they're arrested by this time force that we've never seen before, and also Booster Gold's here. We don't ever see that anymore. But
that is anyway. quite a bizarre. Quite a bizarre ending.
It's a tough way to end the show. It's like, have you ever seen Last Man on Earth?
I have not seen that one, actually.
Actually,
no, I think I've seen some of it, because that's the one where like the first season makes sense, and then the second season you're like, you just kind of defeating the purpose of what the show is supposed to be.
Well, yeah, you'll love this then, if that's your criticism. So that show, for anyone that doesn't know, the concept is that it's tough to watch now, but this show is like from 2018 or something. The concept is that a worldwide virus killed everyone on the planet except for one dude, Will Forte. And then by the end of the first episode, you realize, oh, Kristen Shaw's here. So there's a woman. Oh no, he's not the last man on Earth. And then, as Dan was hinting towards, throughout the course of the show, more and more people show up, and it's like, oh, there's just a bunch of people who are alive. And the show got canceled, and the very last scene of the show is hundreds of people coming out of a bunker.
Oh my god. So complete Fallout style.
Yeah, and they come out of a bunker, they all got masks, and they see because the show ends, it's like they finally settle down. They're like, you know what? We're going to stop looking for other people. We're just going to settle down in this orange grove and live out the rest of our days until we die here. And then the last shot is them looking at the horizon, and there's hundreds of people in hazard masks. And then the show gets canceled. And you're like, what kind of cliffhanger?
That's the classic, there's one guy and he's writing like a journal of, I am the last person. I haven't walked out of my neighborhood in a while and have not looked for anybody, but I'm pretty sure I'm the last one.
To be fair, that's part of the narrative. The reason why they don't find each other is like there's a reason for each character, and like these hundreds of people were in a bunker, like just waiting it out. But like that to say, it's like, it sucks when a show gets canceled in that way, where it's like there was so much more story to be told, and if the writers had even a little bit of heads up, they could have not put that scene in there. They could have tied things up a little better to make it a little more satisfying.
I mean, honestly, sometimes when that happens, I think it might be a strategy of they know they're getting canceled, and if you leave it on a big enough of a cliffhanger, it's going to make people want to get it, like get the conclusion, get something out of it. When you know that there's something else not there that you want to see, I'm looking at you, Snyder Cut. Eventually, if you have a big enough movement and enough people whining about it on social media, it does get revived. But okay, so that's Legends and how that finishes. That one I think we can agree on is a show that we wish continued because it was a quality show. It's just unfortunate, like you said, the fact that it was connected to a bunch of other superheroes, to the CW. It did have that poor season 1. Like, that one's unfortunate. However, I think we can all kind of agree that Batwoman being canceled is not much of a surprise, especially because the entirety of season 1 was very serious tone, very intense, very like, oh my gosh, what is going on with this? And then I remember the moment that I truly had zero interest of ever going back. And that was at DC Fandom. And they advertised the next season as this weird, funny, not serious, goofy, we're girls on like a road trip through Gotham or something like that. And it just, it was almost like they were going, should we go the Legends of Tomorrow in Gotham? Like, is that what we should do here? And I think a combo of that, the fact that there was such a big thing with Ruby Rose leaving, that they didn't decide to make a new hero. They decided to just keep it with Batwoman, but not have it be Batwoman. But then the more confusing part, using the sister. Yeah, if I understand correctly, and I mean, I haven't seen it. I'm just going off of what I remember reading and stuff like that. If I remember right, it was basically someone else that took up the mantle of Batwoman.
Okay, so it is a different character, though.
It was a different character outside of the mask, but trying to be the same character in the mask, kind of. Okay. Like, it's basically like when Batman became Dick Grayson. Like, it was still Batman, gotcha. But it was Dick Grayson. It was the fact that they did that and kept Alice, whose entire purpose was being Ruby Rose's sister. And the big thing was that her sister forgot about her and didn't look for her. That was her whole thing. And when you remove her sister from the equation, like, what do you...
To be fair, Alice was like, from what I watched, Alice, and I forget the name of the actor who plays her, but probably the only redeeming thing about that show was Alice. It's like a fun character to watch. She was
fantastic.
She's great.
She truly was, like, gave you that vibe of, oh, this is kind of what they're going for a Joker character.
Yeah.
And like, she did a great job. And there were a lot of twists. Like, I remember that was a part of that show that I really enjoyed.
Anytime she was on screen, you could tell it's like, oh, like, this actor's trying because like, she wants to be here. and like, the show is elevated because of that, because if someone on screen actually cares right now.
Yeah.
Like, anytime Ruby Rose is on screen, it's like, oh, well, she clearly doesn't want to be here. Like,
it's just like whenever you see like Barry and Iris, you can tell there's no chemistry between those actors, and it's just very, very forced. And if the rest of the show wasn't what it was.
I have the synopsis of the finale of Batwoman here, if we want to read it and just see. There's some names in this. Right off rip.
Let's hear it.
It says, let's hear it. At Amusement Mile, Marquis enters Joker's old hideout.
Okay.
So I don't know if like Joker's in the show or if he just is implied to have been
Not to
there.
my knowledge, but my guess, it's a clown hideout in a circus.
Yeah. It says, I don't know who Marquis is. That's a character in the show now. Maybe that is Batwoman? Who's to say? No, because it says he. Anyway, he broadcasts to Gotham City that he will be exposing Batwoman's identity later tonight. Okay, so it's the villain. Ryan works with Jada, to use the bar as a temporary base to counter Marquis' plot. After Mary's visit to a destabilizing Alice, so Alice is still in the show, Ryan visits her as Alice mentions the information that was previously mentioned between the inmates. Skip ahead here. Something about Joker acid and the Bat Blimp. Okay. The Penguin? Okay. Batwoman fights Marquis on the Bat Blimp, and they fall out but land safely. With help from Alice, Batwoman uses the Joy Buzzer on Marquis. Wow, this show seems to have devolved into... Do you know this from the comic book?
The only thing that they translated to the comics was Alice. This is the only part of this show that I know translated to the comics. Okay.
Let's see. How does it end? Alice leaves Gotham City for a sanitarium overseas. At the site of the explosion, a hazmat suit-wearing Dana DeWitt advises the citizens to stay away from the area as she and her news crew are attacked by a mangled figure with exposed bones. Who are they implying that is?
Oh my gosh.
Let me look up Batwoman Season 3, Episode 13 Easter eggs. What are they doing?
A lot of that sounds like them going, hey, if we mention Joker and maybe Batman,
right,
or imply
maybe
Batman,
people will watch.
maybe people will watch. Exactly. Maybe it'll get that factor of, oh my gosh, they got this character in the show. But fun fact, writers of Batwoman, you kind of got to do that earlier in the season because no one's going to want to watch an entire season just to get a small glimpse at what might be a cameo. Like, it might be a cameo, and...
Seems like Joker is in the show.
Honestly, I think all of us can just agree they were struggling to keep this going. Some people wanted it to go because it did have a lot of CW aspects to it. The fact that you do have
her whole origin.
Female lesbian lead character superhero like that. Let's be honest, that is very CW. The whole Dare to Defy thing, like that.
Yeah,
is
funny that they canned the two shows that had the most queer stuff in it and left. The Flash, white straight man, and Superman, white straight man. Cool, Dare to Defy, guys.
Yeah, dare to defy your own mission statement.
Your own apparently. Dare to defy, dare to defy.
But at the end of the day, that does not surprise me. I wish they had done that sooner so that they could give that budget to Legends of Tomorrow to hopefully get Legends of Tomorrow to work better. I think another problem with Legends, if I remember correctly, didn't they get rid of Constantine?
Yes, he died.
Because and I think that was one of those really, really unfortunate things. And I think actually I should mention that just entirely for Legends was, one, Constantine really carried that show for a while. Yeah, honestly, that actor, he was fantastic. But I think...
He's still in the show after Constantine dies. He plays a different character.
Okay. Oh, I think I remember them doing that. But it's not the same. But I think the problem with Legends was the number of times that they removed characters from the show were perfect times for people to stop watching the show.
Yeah,
like,
that's a good point.
The second your character leaves, you go, okay, I don't really care as much anymore. And now your small audience has just gotten smaller. Mm-hmm. And you've changed this character, just gotten smaller. It's kind of like when Zari changed from being kind of the tomboy badass to the influencer. Like, mm-hmm. I wasn't a fan of that. I really enjoyed the tomboy badass version of her. Like, there were just a lot of those moments. And I think like just when they kept removing those characters, they just kept thinning the herd. And I think that really hurt them in the long run. I know a lot of those actors probably just didn't want to do it anymore, and I can understand and respect that. But I do think that just, it very much hurt the show in the long run.
Yeah.
Because it would be like going, it's like, because The Flash, the only main character to really leave has been Cisco. And they replaced him very, very quickly with Chester, who does a good job of making you enjoy him right off the bat.
And the Wells Ziz.
The Wells was just... The Wells became a situation of people would hope that he would come back because they so many times would get rid of him and then bring him back. But what are your final opinions on this?
I mean, it sucks. It sucks when a show that you like gets canceled no matter what. I mean, both of us were obviously clowning on Batwoman, but like it's we haven't seen the show, and like there are clearly people who like that show, and I know like that there is representation in that show that is not in a lot of other places. And hey,
right.
like with such a drastic lead change in seasons 2 and 3, maybe the show did get better. But
yeah,
like you were saying earlier about Legends hemorrhaging viewers after like either season 1 when it just wasn't a very good show at all, or after characters were leaving, like this is why these shows got canceled for the most part. Like the most likely, like we obviously don't know why, like it could be a variety of reasons, but most likely it's because these shows were hemorrhaging viewers for one way or the other, and a lot of it is just due to how they were made, and the unfortunateness of that. Now, do you think these shows will get capped off in any way, whether it be like a TV movie or being finished on Flash or something?
I think that Batwoman, I'm not expecting. The only way that I could see Batwoman continuing would be getting some of the characters over to Supergirl and kind of doing a World's Finest team up thing over there. But I'm not sure if I could see them being like permanent characters.
Supergirl's also done, so that would be hard.
Oh, did it get? Oh, okay, well there you go. There's that.
Supergirl ended. People don't like when I say that Supergirl got canceled because it did end. It had a series finale, but like we all know it got canceled.
Right. They just clearly knew.
Yeah, they knew, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, if you know, great, you can end your show. But these people didn't know. So that sucks.
Legends of Tomorrow, I could see
more of a chance.
I could very much see some of those characters appearing in other shows, especially Flash, because of all the time travel that they've got. Mm-hmm. I think the best way the most likely way that we might get a continuation of some sort of Legends of Tomorrow would actually be not entirely Legends, but bringing Booster Gold onto the Flash in some way. Because I know everyone loves Donald Faison because of Scrubs, and I know a lot of people want Zach Braff to come as Blue Beetle Ted Kord, and so I think I think that would be one of those shows that could do well and could kind of allow them to maybe grab a couple of the legends, or at least every now and then, maybe do it in like the Wells situation where they're not a permanent cast, but they do come on relatively frequently. And I think that is one of those series that could happen because there is a large amount of people that love that combo. And those two have great chemistry with each other. They are like best friends outside of the movies and everything. And I can't think of any better combo for Booster Gold and Ted Kord than those two. So as for the actual shows, no. I don't necessarily see them coming back. I could see, when you mentioned the like TV movie, I could see Legends getting something like that. I like that's not out of the wheelhouse, but I don't think the shows are going to get revived because there's
the most likely scenario that I could see is for maybe both of them, including Batwoman. Like if I will say, if Flash survives until next season and they announce a crossover of some kind, which at that point would just be between Flash and Superman. But if they announce some kind of like, hey, we're doing another Armageddon style thing where characters are going to come back, I think you could very easily dedicate an episode or two to Legends and Batwoman to cap off their stories. And just say, hey,
I could definitely see that.
Bring your universe back to where, like, to the point where it was, even in Armageddon, back in Armageddon, where it was like, here are these toys that were on the shelf, and we're going to take them off for an episode just to be like, hey, this is where this character's at right now, and then put them back. Yeah. Be like, okay, let's do that with Legends, finish them off, put them to a status quo part, and then put them there so people can be satisfied and not yell at us on Twitter every day.
Yeah, and that would actually make a lot of sense, like, because they could very easily do that of, oh, there's a time situation. let me go break out the Legends of Tomorrow to help us with this because exactly, like that, I could see that happening. I think that would be a good and viable way to give them their proper ending.
Totally. Cool. Well, this has been a way too long discussion about 2 shows being dead. But yeah, let us know in the comments what you guys think about these shows ending. If you watch them, is this bittersweet? Are you watching from the sidelines and being like, yeah, I hate those shows, finally? Maybe don't comment if that's what you think. That's what
But actually, no, do. We need the interactions with the channel.
That's fair. Leave a comment anyway. Good point, Dan. I'm Dylan, that's Dan. This has been Absolutely Marvel in DC. We'll catch y'all next time.